Hey onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out the One Man Podcast. There's now over 200 episodes and dozens of bonus interviews, all of which are available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and many more. And you know what? If you don't have any of those apps, no big deal, because you can listen anytime at onemanpodcast.com. So be sure to subscribe because it's always free and there's a new episode out every Wednesday. And while you're at it, leave a review. It's a great way to help the podcast and it doesn't cost you a thing. Follow One Man Podcast on all the major socials and you'll get bonus content and pictures, fun stuff for yourself. And finally, if you have something that you want read on the show, send it to contact@onemanpodcast.com because if you send it, I'll read it on an upcoming episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Demers.
I'm K. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, it's Krista Allen.
Hi, this is Rick Mercier.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 214 for Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. How's it going, onesies? You guys doing good? Living your best lives, enjoying the sunshine or summertime where you may be? Are you? Let me just tell you this, guys. Intro, One Man Podcast. What is it? It is me, comedian Josh Williams, telling you what's going on with me, personally, professionally, all sorts of wacky thoughts that enter my head. That's what this podcast is. Right? Just learning a little bit about me and what happened in the past week. And I will tell you guys that I watched some movies and shows this last week. I did some physical labor. What? Just been helping out with some tasks for people, which has made me feel useful. This old dog who's not doing comedy still has some use in him. So I'll tell you guys about that. I had a doctor's appointment and spent some time with someone I haven't seen in a long time. Made me very, very happy to do. I got some really good news. And I'll tell you a little bit about it, but it's kind of one of those things where the ink isn't dry yet. So I do not want to jinx it. Everything looks good, but I don't want to jinx it. And then, of course, we got our top 5 coming up, the shittiest movie, all that fun stuff in the podcast. So let's just hit the ground running, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about some of the stuff I got going on. So why don't I start with this really good news stuff so I can cross it off my board. So some good news is I started another program for Skip. So I'll be doing some decal replacement in Ottawa. I got about 100 locations to do, which will be some good money in my pocket. So I found this out. I'm going to share this with you guys, actually. This is for the Canadian listeners, American listeners. Sorry. I mean, feel free to learn a little bit about the I guess the Canadian subsidies and whatnot. But I just recently learned this week. So I, of course, as a comedian and a guy who works in marketing, who hasn't been doing any of that stuff, I have the pleasure, the blessing, the privilege, let's call it, it's definitely a privilege, of living in Canada. So all of us out of work people due to COVID, we've had really decent government subsidy for more than a year now. $2,000 a month, which luckily for me is exactly what I need to live on. I've taken the odd gig here and there, but really it's the subsidy that's kept me alive. It was originally called the CERB. If you're Googling it, that stands for, originally it was the Canadian Emergency Recovery Bonus or Benefit. And then they shortened it to the CRB, the Canada Recovery Benefit. And so the idea is basically just every 2 weeks you just log in. Yep, still unemployed. And then they send you a little subsidy. So they've been over the course of the last year or so like, hey, it's good for 4 months or X amount of weeks, right? So they're like, we're giving you 500. It was basically $500 a week, right? So like any kind of job where you get paid every 2 weeks, you'd get, originally it was, you'd get $1,000. And then after a while, they're like, oh, it turns out a lot of people are spending this money and they're not putting any, like it is a taxable benefit. So, the idea is like, if you get $1,000, you still have to, it counts as income. So it's coming from the government, but it's still income. You need to pay taxes on that at the end of the year. And people are just spending everything that they got. So when they extended it and turned it into the Canada Recovery Benefit, what they changed it to was that you would still get $500 a week, but the government was going to keep 10% of that. So every 2 weeks, instead of getting $1,000, you'd get $900. Hey, but at least the government's keeping a little piece of that. It's basically like they were taxing it off your paycheck, right? So at least people are paying taxes because everyone was like, what? I owe you money back? This isn't just free gravy. So that's what they did. Now, originally it was my understanding that like sometime this month, the CRB was running out and people always contact me, friends and family that know know that I'm on it. They're like, hey, just a heads up, I heard that they're extending it again. It's like, oh, great news. Basically, like every 2 months or 3 months, they extend it for another couple of months. So it's basically just like, okay, I think I'm going to be okay for the next couple of months. Just gives me time to start worrying again. And it's like, don't worry, it's extended. You're like, oh, thank God. So the CRB, I just looked at it the other day because I was like, I wonder how long it's good until now. And I looked it up and they said that the CRB was extended from June until I believe it was September. And then they said that the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, for the US listeners, that's our IRS. They're like, yeah, and they've even given permission to extend it to November if necessary. So it's like, okay, there's another few months. But then I kept reading and they said that they're cutting the subsidy from $500 a week down to $300 a week. So still helpful, but then they said that they're changing the taxable amount too from 10% to 20% off the top. So basically it goes from $500 a week to $300 a week minus 20%. So it would be $270. So basically those payments going from $900 every 2 weeks are going to drop down to $540, which is not enough to live on. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to suck. Like, again, I'll take what I can get, but it's not going to cover the stuff that I have. So it was like, oh shit. And this is, again, I'm sharing this in case anyone else was in the same boat as me, where it's like, okay, this thing's been extended. This is good across the country to all Canadians. So it's like, okay, that's great that it's extending, but they've never made any changes to the amount this entire time. They've changed the name, but it was still always, like I said, I think the first change was to the name, and they taxed 10% off the top. So you're getting $1,800 a month instead of $2,000. It's a difference, but it's not night and day difference. Whereas $900 every 2 weeks to $540, that's a bigger difference. And so I was like, well, that's stressful. And that's like coming up at the end of the month. And I'm like, fuck, I don't have anything lined up. So getting the Skip the Dishes promo gig back in was like, okay, good. I think that'll fill in the blanks for this 1 month, but it's still going to make everything tight. You know what I mean? So I applied for something. I applied for a small business grant back in March. I was telling you guys about the small business grant where the amount of work I had to do filling out forms and getting tons of pay stubs and showing proof of income and creating business bank accounts, like doing a bunch of different things that I had to do and submitting and proving and double proving and triple proving. And then what ended up happening was once I submitted, they turned around and they sent me an email a month later, and it was like, you are not eligible for this. Even though I went through the eligibility process and clicked on everything, they even had like, hey, check here, answer these questions to see if you're eligible. I did that and I was eligible. But I guess because of my industries, so it's basically supposed to be for small businesses. So like grocery stores and stuff don't count. They're not exactly small businesses. They're usually owned by parent companies. They have a ton of employees. There's other subsidies, not to mention the fact that they're not closed, right? Grocery stores are considered essential. They haven't had to close because of the pandemic. Whereas like people who own theaters and cinemas and event centers and convention centers and things like that can't have large gatherings. So these people are all hurting because like, well, we've got to pay for this thing. We have no clients. But myself, as somebody who works in the marketing industry to an extent, right? Comedy, like all the comedy clubs are closed. So that's done. All the big event centers and non-essential businesses have closed. And I get paid for all sorts of different things, like going in, like, so for example, I might get a gig where Samsung is telling me, you got to go in and teach these employees how to use this new software. You know what I mean? Go in and build a display for, I think, Tinco was like a vacuum cleaner company. I had to go into the Best Buys and like build a display, right? So all sorts of different things. Then there's ones where I'm standing around in stores, like giving out samples or educating, whatever. So like they had all these different fields where I fell under, right? I've also done big events, in convention centers, working for Hewlett Packard and Air Canada and stuff like that. So again, all these things are closed. And this small grant recognizes the fact that people who own these buildings are not, don't have clients, so they're not making any money. But the people who rent them, the people who also need these spaces to be operational to do their business are also hurting. And there's no real clear-cut definition for those people. So like they were telling me, like, marketing companies, we're not helping marketing companies right now. Like it's not part of the small business. Marketing companies are big. I'm like, yeah, but I don't work for the marketing company. I am subcontracted by the marketing company. Like if you work for a company, if you work for Best Buy and they hire a guy to come and put up a sign outside, he doesn't work for Best Buy. He's hired by Best Buy, but he's not an employee of Best Buy. So it's not, I don't work an employee of the marketing company. I'm subcontracted. They hire me to go and do 2 days of training at a place. So they recognize that they can't afford to pay a guy who once in a while they might need to do training. Like you can't have someone on staff like that. That's why it's subcontracted. So, your same subsidy covers instructors, but it's not covering but I'm not just an instructor. I'm what's called a brand ambassador. So I get hired by lots of different marketing companies to do all sorts of different odd jobs, public relations, building, but my business is still affected by the same stuff that you're listing. So just because my job type category doesn't fall exactly under one of these predetermined categories doesn't mean that I'm not exactly the kind of person that you're trying to help. Like if you help small construction companies, small this and that, or just one guy who comes in and does odd jobs. Like that's basically what a brand ambassador is. We need you to wear this shirt and give this out. We need you to go in here and fix this. We need you to go in here and make sure this display is exactly to par. Like to skip the dishes, I'm literally going in, peeling off an old sticker and putting a new one on the window. You know what I mean? Like this will take me a week to do, but that's it. Like, but I'm not a marketing company employee. I'm not the guy who talks to the clients and designs stuff and figures out an action plan and, how to integrate everything into the public and work on demographics charts and things. Like that's not what I do. I just do the grunt work, right? You open a store, you need to hire a guy to hang a sign up front. He doesn't work for your company, but he's working for that. You know what I mean? Anyways, you guys aren't stupid. I know that you know what I mean. So I had to fight and make an argument and work hard. And then it was kind of just like, okay, well, we'll reevaluate it. The other night, I received an email saying the funds will be deposited in your account within 10 business days. So knock on wood, and I probably shouldn't be putting this out there before it comes, but I am knocking on wood that comes in, because if that comes in, that puts me right back in the green, and I will have some breathing room to just, again, focus on grabbing marketing gigs, getting back into stand-up as things start to open up again. So it's good. It's a good way to be. And, I even with getting the help and it not being enough at times, it's nice. Again, I'm fortunate to live in Canada where we have a government that's helping subsidize people, that there's grants that they're giving out. I'm very grateful for that. And, I know that my listeners in the United States, I think they got like one check once or whatever. Like there's businesses being decimated everywhere. People who are quitting their dreams and having to get regular jobs just to be able to make ends meet. I hope that my, I'm only getting half the amount of money doesn't sound ungrateful for your circumstances. I just mean, this is a big help. So, but like, again, the ink's not dry yet. Like once that money is in the account, I will breathe a sigh of relief, and I will celebrate, and I will excite. But in the meantime, I'm doing a skip the dishes gig starting tomorrow, and that'll be that. I'll be back to work and making some money. I promise the money won't change me, you guys. But yeah, and it also will help moving forward with some other things I'm working on. So, I'm excited for that, and I'm glad to be doing, those things. What else we got here? Sorry, I'm looking for a Sharpie here. I normally use those to cross things off the list as I get them spoken. What do I spoken? Talk about 12 minutes in. All right. So I'm happy for that. It seems like the work is not for nothing. And I'm excited to get going on that. What else? I changed some plugs at my brother's place. He's got his young kiddo. I went over to visit them, and I did, whoops, sorry about that, gang. Banging the mic with my head. I'm really moving around too much this week. I'm wearing my Apple Watch, which I don't normally do. And every time I move my arm, it slides the face along the desk and is making noise. I lifted up the clipboard to get pens and shit out of the way and whacked it. So I'm all over the place, guys, all over the place. I went to my brother's house, changed some plugs. Apparently their little fella's a lot more mobile now, and he's getting really good at pulling those plastic plug covers out of the electrical sockets. So they're like, hey, can you come over and switch it to these new kind of plugs? Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to be an electrician in my earlier days when I was 18 to 22. I did electrical work, and that's what I was going to be before I got a job at Future Shop. So after a few years of just zapping myself and crawling around in attics and basements, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I care how good the money is. I just don't want to be bored and hate my job every day. So stop doing it. But knowledge is still up in the old brain bucket, So he got the kind of plugs where they've got the plastic things built right into them. Because the little guy's like, he's not only is he getting the covers off, but he's also starting to like plug things into the socket. And I guess it's not like he's walking around with a metal knife sticking stuff in, but you never know what they get their hands on. So if he's playing in his room by himself and he's fucking with the electrical sockets, I want to make sure that it's safe for him. So I went over and did that. It was a nice little visit. Got to see them. I have another friend whose house was a sauna, to say the least, and we cut we had to get a floor unit air conditioner in, which had like a really weird attachment style to the window. It was just like, how the fuck is this going to work? So we worked on getting a piece of plywood cut for the right thing, and then I cut out the hole for the thing. It was an interesting little process for us to get this thing hooked into the window properly. But it was cool, go in, measure, create sort of, jerry rig some solutions. Like, it doesn't look shitty. It's actually a really well done thing that we've done, but, it was just, it was nice to get that in there and see that thing finished. And then of course they, message me the next day, like, the house is so much cooler. Thank you so much. I'm like, all right, I like that. Old dog getting stuff done. Just being able to help out a friend in need. Yeah, guys, isn't this interesting stuff, huh? Changing plugs, putting in air conditioners, as I'm sure a lot of people right now are just, trying to make life a little more livable. I also moved a shed. Another friend had, cleaning up their backyard or whatever. And just like, I need a shed to put shit in. And they found, and then they messaged me like, hey, I got somebody who's going to give me one for like $50, whatever. And it's like those old sort of like tin steel sort of style sheds. The person who did it, like, it was a neighbor, but they screwed like a big piece of plywood to the top of this thing. I guess like the old style maybe had water kind of run into the shed or something, but they screwed this giant piece of plywood to the top, like to the roof of the shed. And then on top of that, and then they shingled it. Right. So this thing went from being like light to holy fuck, it's heavy. So we had to, the funny thing was the shed would have been forever to disassemble. And I would have had to like take so many pictures of like, okay, how do we reassemble this? So, and the yard that it was in was fenced in, and this shed wouldn't have fit through the door. So we were like, okay, I had to go in and I had to figure out how everything was screwed in so that we could take the roof off, because it was half the weight, because we were going to have to lift this thing up over our heads and then like, have one team on one side of the fence, one team on the other, kind of like everyone's moving around to get this thing over, and then walk it down to the other yard and then, put it in place. But it was just me and the one friend the first night. It was too much. We had enough strength to get the roof off, lift it up and put it down, to get the flooring that they had built on a skid underneath the thing out. And then finally, we tried to move the thing, but the other person was too short to get over the fence. And so it was just like, okay, we'll have to wait for more troops. So went back the next day, got everything in, walked it down. Like, it was still a process. That roof was still heavy. And it's so weird to say, but it's almost like the tin is like this, the thickness of a playing card. Like, it's so thin. So when you were lowering the roof back down in, it had to tuck in back into the walls. But in case when you're moving something that's like, tin and it's wiggling, it's going from being a rectangle to like a parallelogram, I believe is what they call them. Once everything's sitting down again, it's almost like, well, this thing has to be the exact shape so that the roof will fit back in properly. And of course, everyone's using all their strength to hold this roof up and slowly lower it down. It was a job. When it was done, everyone was happy. Except for my arm. My tennis elbow was screaming at me after all this like electrical work where I'm literally using it to twist screws and everything like that. Like I spent the next day properly doing my physio. Big shout out again to Brent out in Alberta. I've been slacking a bit with my little physio regime of using the ice, but I'll tell you, the next day, after that shed was done, I was a good bitch and I put those ice packs on over and over again, just on and off to get the blood flowing back into it. And I'll use that to segue into, had a doctor's appointment this week. So I've had a few, little lumps and bumps and injuries and things like that I've spoken to him, about regarding, just what they look like and what they are. And we got to a point where he's like, okay, well, we're at a point now where we've sort of talked a little bit about them. And so some of them aren't going away. I think that, it's time for us to schedule like an in-house sort of appointment. I was like, all right, I appreciate that. It's been over a year, right? So I've got like, I've got a bunch of little medical stuff, nothing super gross, but it's mostly like kind of lump and bump related. So there's the one in my arm I found when I went to the hospital about the tennis elbow, and he's just looking at it. He goes, it's basically just a little lump. You probably found it coincidentally when you were rubbing, because it's basically I have this lump like right in my elbow that if I press up in the crink of my arm, it'll push this lump at the top side, which is super fucking gross. Just the idea that there's this lump that sort of surfaces. So the doctor at the hospital saw that, and right away he was like, yeah, it's nothing. And he's like, he goes, realistically, Josh, you're a bigger guy. You probably have those all over your body. And I was like, yeah, I would imagine. So he's like, you just don't see them. Cause I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm a fat fuck. I get it. So, the interesting thing was he's like telling me like, we're looking at this lump on my wrist, which is like really nothing. He's like, it's probably just sensitive and you've aggravated it from, doing a bunch of the stuff that you're doing. The lump you just found while rubbing your tennis elbow. I did fall in February of 2020, right before I went to Scotland. And I found it when I was in the hotel room in Scotland. I went to lay on my side I fell in Ottawa, bashed my hip. And he's like, yeah, you probably had some trauma to the hip. He's like, you're not very big down there. It's like, it's basically just skin and bone, a little bit of muscle. He's like, so you probably bruised the bone and then it swelled up. And he's like, and as things sort of, the swelling did reduce and the size of it kind of went down over the course of a year, but then sort of just kind of stops and calcify. So, I was having him look at that lump because he's like, once it gets hard, he goes, if you have a lump that's hard, that's something you want to get looked at. That's usually more indicative of like cancer. Apparently you can get muscular tumors too. I thought muscles didn't get cancer, but muscles get cancer too, guys. Everything gets cancer. You're going to get cancer too, probably tomorrow. Just fucking with you. But it's, the cure for that is like, you want to get one of those like fucking foam rollers and just like roll the shit out of it. Cause it's probably like a bunch of, calcified things. You want to break it up so your body can start to basically process it again and get rid of it and whatever. He's like, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt more than it does right now. But once you break that shit up, it'll start to go away, whatever. So it's nice to be able to go in and a lot of things that I've been like, what's this? What's that? Is it everything okay? He's basically like, yeah, you got nothing wrong. Shive your stupid face. But it was fascinating. It was fascinating to just sort of examine some stuff. We talked about some other shit. He's sending me for a referral for something that I hope is going to be, nice. Nothing scary, just, an opportunity that I hope that I will get approved for. And of course, we'll tell you guys about that as it comes along. I also got to spend some time with the young fellow, Sir Brody. I haven't seen him in a while. And, I was chatting with him and I asked him if he wanted to, come by and say hi. And he ended up coming by. I don't remember what day it was, but we hung out for a little bit in the afternoon. It was just gonna be a short visit. We were having fun chatting, whatever. And I said, well, hey man, I know you have somewhere to be, but if you want to come back later on, feel free. And he did. And we ended up hanging out. We played a board game during the day. And then when he came back in the evening, we shot the shit. He's excited about, getting an e-bike. And, we talked about that and he even spent the night. He was like, hey, it's going to be late when I come. Is it okay if I spend? Of course. So we crashed on the couch downstairs. We watched, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Cause he was saying he preferred the older comedies and we were scrolling through. We got most of the way through it before he passed out, but classic John Hughes, guys, classic John Hughes. It was just nice seeing him. You know what I mean? I woke up the next day, had breakfast, and then I had to get to my brother's to do the plugs, and he had to get to work. He's got a cool little job, too, which, again, I don't want to say too much about him. He's a young feller, right? An adolescent. Don't want to put too much about adolescence out in the world. There's a lot of bad people out there. So it was cool. It was great. It was great. You know what, guys? A lot of positive stuff. I got to feel useful, right? A dog with a job doing some physical work and some electrical work. Got to spend some time with the kiddo. Got to do a little checkup with the old doctor. Yeah, it was fun. Let me tell you guys, because of this potentially good news, I've listened to your requests. You guys have said, hey, Josh, we would really love it if, when is the podcast becoming video? Well, when I feel like doing a lot more work for the podcast, and already I'm capable of being late with the podcast. So I need to do more research. I started researching cameras and things like that and setups and what to do. And I'm very comfortable with my audio setup. And I would imagine a lot of people will still just remain audio listeners. But in terms of the people who want the video, I'm like, yeah, it's nice to have video. So let's do the fucking video there. All right. I figure if I'm going to end up with a little bit of business money, invest, let's do it in the podcast. So I picked up an HD camera, which I will begin fucking with. It's still a long ways away. And of course, if this ink doesn't dry properly or there's a hiccup, well, it's going back. I'm not even taking it out of the box. Didn't buy any accessories for it. I literally just picked up the camera because it was on sale. And within the next 10 business days, it will not be. So I need to pick that up. So I did. And lip smacking. So I did some research in the podcast stuff. I was looking to see like if I can use the current software that I have. I looked into doing like audiograms and stuff for the podcast too. Like I actually didn't even write this down. I attended sort of a podcast seminar. It was just basically a live event that we got an invite to through Podbean. So I listened to that about how to promote your podcast and things to do and how to build an audience and stuff like that. Just, that doesn't never hurts if you're going to be sitting around doing other things. You may as well listen to something that might help you. So I learned about audiograms, and just different little ways to promote the podcast, which I'll start doing. I'm actually kind of excited about that. And what else? Trying to think here. Picked up the HD camera, which is actually still Zoom brand. So I'll be able to use a lot of the things I already have for the current recorder. But I have to start looking into things like light rings, and I have to decide where I'm going to do it. My room is kind of like a storage locker right now in a lot of aspects. So I don't really want to have a big, I don't want to have just the camera pointed at me and have to constantly, the fact that I'm going to have to start deciding what I'm wearing and doing, grooming myself. I've loved sitting here in my underpants with a big scruffy beard, my hair looking all disheveled, talking to you guys at times, not every time, but at times, right? To be able to be like, well, we're doing the podcast and nobody sees me. It is groovy. I even had some interviews where people would show up in like attires and I was like, it's just audio, man. Thanks for going out of your way to look good. It's merely audio. Very funny. Also too, if I'm doing like these interviews over Zoom and I'm doing like YouTube, I'll have to get like a Zoom account and figure out how to record the Zoom stuff so we can go back and forth in that regard. Like there's a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping to do most of my interviews live and in person just to make my life easier. I'm actually considering buying a second camera just so we can have a 2-camera sort of setup. I looked into some videos about how to like put up graphics while I'm talking, just trying to like, I'm not a big fan of watching YouTube videos where it's like one camera steady. There's no cuts or anything like that. So, but it changes the dynamic of the podcast, right? Being like 30 minutes after the production to now it's a video and I need to go in and I need to, cut things and put up graphics. Like we're going from 20 minutes after the podcast episode is up to, well, now I got a couple hours of editing and this and that. So, don't expect it anytime soon. I'm trying to think of a milestone number. We're episode 214 now. I was thinking about doing an episode 250, but that might be way longer than necessary. But I would say don't expect it anytime within the next month, maybe even 2 months. I want to spend the time practicing, figuring out my setup, figuring out light rings and tripods and backgrounds and, editing. I want to find a way to edit, the podcast so that it'll be like, what's nice about the camera is it's got 2 separate inputs. So, well, a lot of cameras have separate inputs, but the idea is that when it's recording, because it's a Zoom thing, it can record the video and sound together, or it can record them as separate individual tracks, which I like. And I think actually because of the fact that the podcast is, the video part will really only be for YouTube. I don't have to necessarily put it out the exact day it comes out. I can date what day it's supposed to be for, but if it comes out like a day later, I'll still be able to get the audio part up for you onesies nice and easy. And then I can spend like the next morning on a Wednesday kind of fucking around with the audio. It's a learning process. It's a learning process. But for those of you who are like, hey, when's this thing going to be up? Go video. It's in the works. I can tell you at least that the One Man Podcast is going a video. So, I look forward to having that up and having little clips and stuff like that for you guys. I also want to learn how to do, like I said, the graphics and just have some fun graphics that show up on the screen in the process too. So, we can all enjoy it. I'm sure, in time we'll be able to, I'll be able to learn something like Final Cut Pro or whatever, where I have more editing options. But for now I was watching tutorial videos to how to use Keynote and iMovie, stuff that I already have on my computer that's free. To learn and practice and get an idea of what I'm looking for. That would be uber fun, you guys. Yeah. So how about that? Huh? That's some good news, right? Podcast is going video. And, and hopefully it'll be more fun for you guys if I have, a guest host. I'll have 2. I really do think I need to go 2 cameras just so that, if I occasionally will have a second guest, so tripods and things like that for everybody is, it's key. I would think it's key. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to another subject. I'm gonna bang these out, guys. I'm trying to make the podcast. It's 28 minutes in. I think this one's gonna be a nice short one because there's not a lot of things to chat about. In all fairness, I watched some movies, and some of these will take some time, of course. What did I watch this week? I watched I Spit on Your Grave. I watched that movie. It's an old one, 2010. It's an unrated version that was online, and it's based on an original I think was the 70s. But the idea with I Spit on Your Grave is like a woman's all by herself at like a cottage. A bunch of men, are terrorizing her, and then the torture goes to assault, and then there's like multiple assaults. It's a pretty rough, intense movie. And then of course the whole idea with the movie is that like, and then it's, she survives, and then she goes to get her revenge on these guys that fucked with her. It's a little, Straw Dogs-ish. If you've ever seen the movie Straw Dogs, also one that had an original with, I can't remember her name, but Dustin Hoffman was in it. And then they made a new one with Kate Bosworth, James Marsden, and Alexander Skarsgård, which is a little more intense. But the idea is it's like a family that buys a home in a town that the woman grew up in. Her ex-boyfriend's there, takes an interest in her, and her husband's, he's like the good old boy, hardworking, physical, was her boyfriend when she was young, and now she comes back and she's looking good, and her boyfriend's kind of a dork. You know what I mean? He's a writer or whatever. So it's kind of like, he's not really, a tough guy or anything like that. And then it's kind of like, and then there's a rough kind of assault scene. And then, the husband snaps, and, now it's like, we got to kill all these motherfuckers that did shit to my wife. That's Straw Dogs. I Spit on Your Grave. Very similar, pretty rough scenes. Like the shit that happens to the dudes in the scenes are rough. The shit that happens to her is rough. I didn't mean to sidestep that, but it was rough. There was a kid in it too that had special needs of some kind, and they got him to do stuff, and I thought that was kind of fucked up because it was like, oh, and he clearly didn't want to, but then as they were smacking him around, he got aggressive and then ended up hitting her at one point. So I will just say, I mean, for whatever reason, if you're planning on watching this movie, for whatever reason, she does take revenge on the kid with special needs too, which I thought was a little fucked up. I was kind of hoping he would be spared, knowing that like he clearly, I didn't think there needed to be a special needs kid in it. I really didn't. Or someone on the spectrum. I thought it was fucked up. He clearly didn't want to be a part of anything negative, was forced into it. And then for him to, have revenge got on him, was kind of fucked up. It didn't paint her as a victim getting retribution. It painted her as kind of a monster too. Are you victim blaming, Josh? No, but if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. There was multiple humiliation scenes for her and a rape scene. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And so it's a pretty tough movie. I know people who aren't, who like, even if something's like implied in a scene, they really don't like it. And I don't blame them. So it was just, it was tough, but it was still, if you like, it wasn't, I would say it wasn't any gorier than like a Saw movie or Hostel. And those movies are wild, no one's getting raped in them, but it's still, you know what I mean? Like people still go see them. It's whatever. So like the idea is like, the horrible shit that happens, the vengeance is got. They had 2 sequels on whatever I watched it on. I think I watched it on Prime, but part 2 was just a story of some woman in Europe. Like I barely paid attention to the story because it was bad. It seemed very B movie-ish, but some woman in Europe, and she's a model. And then some guy shows up to the hotel or the what do they call them, or hostels that she's staying in, or Airbnb or whatever the fuck it was. Shows up and he's just talking to her, and the next thing you know, he's smacking her around. Then he's, assaulting her. And then I'm like, okay, this is the assault scene. It's not as intense as the first one. And then it's like, then they drag her to some basement. She's chained up naked, and they're doing stuff to her, and someone pees on her. And I was like, holy fuck. Like they're like doubling up the humiliation, but it's just like, it's not even making any sense. Like, why would they do this? She escapes, goes to like the cops. Some woman comes in, oh, I'm a therapist. Let me take you somewhere safe. And then she like brings her right back to these guys. And it's like, what the fuck? And it was brutal. Like more than half the movie is the horrible things they're doing to her. And so at the end, it's like a very quick kind of like retribution thing. I'm like, I thought the whole point was like I thought we needed this one scene to justify the retribution. We don't need the whole fucking movie to be the horrible rape shit that they're doing to her. It's like there's more horrible shit they're doing to her than the retribution. And then of course, part 3, they have the original cast member come back. So the one who was in the original there, not original 70s, just number 1. And it was weird because in I Spit on Your Grave, the first one, it ends where her final retribution is got, and she's just sort of sitting outside hearing the sound of her little, contraption doing its thing. And then she just sort of like, and I think that it's, I'm not even 100% sure of this, but the camera's zooming in on her face. She's just sitting outside waiting to hear what she hears. And then when it happens, she just sits there and the camera slowly zooming in on her face. And then right before it cuts to black, I think you get the faintest sight of a smirk. I think. But that was it. So it's like, she's got everybody, you know, what else is there to tell? So in this third one, she's back and she's going to like support groups and, you know, she's out going for runs and her runs are triggering like PTSD, like scenes from the first movie. She's out running and now she's remembering herself running through the woods. You know, she bumps into some guys under a bridge and now she's remembering being surrounded by the guys out in the wood. Like, so, but then she has this, like I'm fast forwarding through because like the conversation's really bad and hacky. And I'm like, okay, so where's like the killing and stuff in this one? And there's no, luckily there's no like assault scene in this one, but she's in this fucked up like mental state now where she's seemingly, again, I fast forwarded through some of it because it just seemed to be like nothing was moving the plot forward. So she's going to support groups. She's got this woman who's like, you know, antagonizing her and encouraging her to like find people, like to almost provoke sexual frustration and to provoke, not even sexual frustration, to provoke sexual assault and then killing the person. So like she'll go to a bar and try to like pick up a guy. And then like, if he tries to get even the slightest bit rough, she'll kill him. So it was a little fucked up. I guess I'd probably have to watch the whole movie to see what happens. But there was times where like, she's in the park talking to this guy and she's like, come over here. And he's like, no, you're weirding me out, lady. What do you want? She's like, come over here. Don't you want me to suck that dick? And he's like, what? She's like, come over. And she gets down on her knees and opens her mouth. Come here, bring it to me. You don't want a blowjob? He's like, right here? She's like, yeah, why don't you come over and find out? And he's like, okay, like starts to walk towards her, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. That kind of sounds like consent. Why don't you come over here? Come over here. Don't you want a blowjob? Like that sounds, he's even like, wait, what are you doing? No, like he's actively not interested in it. And then as soon as he walks towards her, she slices a knife at him. I'm like, if I saw just this scene, I would think, oh, that's the bad guy. That woman is the bad guy. Like we know horrible things happen to her. And it's basically showing like she's, you know, got PTSD. There's also parts of the movie where she's like sees things happen and then they didn't happen. Like it's just all in her mind. So, I mean, in terms of like, she went through a horrible thing. Absolutely. But they almost turned her character into someone completely fucked up. You know, again, I think making it more so that I have a hard time, you know, I don't know. It was like, we needed an excuse. Like there's one where she's blowing a guy in the alley, literally blowing him and bites his dick off and then spits it in his mouth and then stabs him in the dick. Like, it's like, holy fuck, is this violent? Anyways, it was what it was. Yeah, so you can watch them if you want, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's really not, there wasn't much to say about the series. I enjoyed watching the first one. It was a kind of a good horror movie. A little, like I said, a little rough on the assault part, but you know, it justified the massive killings that she did later on. Except the kid with special needs. I didn't like that. PJs on Tubi. Okay. Eddie Murphy did a claymation show back in the 90s called The PJs. It stands for The Projects. And it was a hilarious show. It's done sort of claymation, Wallace and Gromit sort of style. Great cast of characters. Funny show. It is on Tubi. I just saw it recently and I was like, oh, gotta watch this. I've already burned through the first season. I can't recommend it more. If you're looking for just a nice, charming sort of show, it's one of those ones where I watched. It had a couple of seasons, 3 seasons, I believe. And it's just a fun watch. It's on Tubi. It's a free app. So anyone listening anywhere, Tubi, Tubi, download it, watch The PJs. I haven't really watched any more of the Kitchen Nightmares with Ramsey, but that's also on Tubi. I was watching. There's a lot of good stuff on Tubi. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the I Spit on Your Grave stuff is on Tubi. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, you can access this other stuff on Tubi. I watched Loki. First episode of Loki came out, and that one was fun. So I don't know who the director is. Wasn't anyone I recognized from the movie series, but the show has a very Guardians of the Galaxy feel. The show takes place right after Loki escaped from the Battle of New York in 2012's Avengers. So in Endgame, they drop the Tesseract, Loki picks it up and disappears. It starts off with, where did he go? And he disappeared. Oh, here he is. And he's, excuse me. Jesus, my Christ. He's a time variant. Sorry, as I was choking, I realized my coffee was across the room. I'm like, don't I usually have something to wet the whistle here? Yes, I do. First slurp of the episode, guys. 38 minutes in. Who is joining the adult club here? Or at least setting better goals? I don't know. The show has a very Guardians of the Galaxy feel, in that it's like we're going to a lot of places we don't know. Everything could be new. There's different types of, I don't want to say, not a whole lot of like aliens or anything like that, but you learn this thing about like the Time Corps or whatever they're called. I was like, it's basically this fun time cop thing. Owen Wilson is in it, and he's very charming and cute, as he's able to be. Tom Hiddleston, of course, is Loki. I don't think I recognized any other characters or big actors yet in this series, but basically, it's just a preliminary explain something episode. So the idea is that, everyone's got a set course in time, and, there's things that every now and again someone will alter the course of time and they don't know it. And then these time people have to go and put things back on course. And so Loki grabbing the Tesseract and fucking off was a variant that wasn't supposed to happen. So these people show up and they're like, hey, he's going to get judged. How do you plead? And it's like, well, he doesn't think he's guilty of anything. This is also the Loki that wasn't killed by Thanos or whatever. Kind of the way in Endgame, the Thanos at the end is not the Thanos that gathered all the stones. This is just some Thanos was looking for him still and was like, oh, I must have got them all. And now let's go fight the Avengers. Nerdy. If you're not into the Marvel stuff, I apologize. I'll try to keep this brief. But the first episode is really just setting the groundwork. So I won't even spoil how the first episode ends, but the idea is that Loki is a variant and these time cops are hunting another variant, and they're rather than like Loki being punished and persecuted, they've now, procured him, requisitioned him to help them find this other way more dangerous variant. Loki, you're just a pain in the ass, troublesome scamp variant. This other variant is very dangerous and we need your help. So that's kind of, that's not how the first one ends. There's like a bit of, you're given more information that gives you more of a cliffhanger. But the idea is Loki is going to help these time cops find this other variant and, stop him. That's the idea. 6 episodes of Loki. The first one's out. I thought it was interesting. Like I said, there's charming little things. You learn a lot, little videos. They also sort of reset Loki in the sense that the Loki who disappeared from New York with the Tesseract, the one in this episode, he hadn't gone to the Dark World. He didn't see his mother die. He didn't help Thor. He wasn't there when his dad died, Odin, right? He didn't, help Thor in Ragnarok. He didn't help try to stop Thanos. This is a Loki that existed before that. He was still anti-Avengers at this time. So in this time prison thing, there's a moment where he's sort of shown his timeline, the timeline he was supposed to have, and it shows him his mother die. It shows him working with Thor, his dad approving of him, like, basically giving you the Loki, right? Downloading the old Loki onto this unaware Loki. So now he knows what his course was and everything like that. So you're almost getting the Loki that died on the ship, right? Instead of being like, well, this Loki doesn't know all the noble things he did. This Loki has been made aware of the noble things he did. So you're almost getting the Loki that, whatever. I mean, if you follow the Marvel stuff, it's the world's most expensive TV show. You'll get an idea. Yeah, but then this one, yeah, don't worry. They get you back to the point where you like Loki, that he's even aware that he's got nobility in him and stuff like that. So, I've enjoyed it. It's one episode. I believe it comes out on Thursdays, but it might come out on Wednesdays. If so, it's out today, and if you're listening to this on Thursday, it's out now. So check it out on Disney Plus, the streaming services. Man, I really should get some fucking sponsorship. I would love to just get free streaming services, and I'll plug where to find this shit every week. Okay, shittiest movie. Moving right in. Oh, no. I got one more. PMS Cop, guys. PMS Cop. I did not watch it. I told you guys about that as one of the options for the shittiest movie. And PMS Cop was one of the ones that came up. And it was basically just some cop gets hormonal injections and then she's just like on constant, she's on her period. Now she's going around killing people because she's a cop and she's pissed. The tagline was like PMS Cop. It's her time of the month. And I was telling my brother's wife, because she listens to podcasts about the shittiest movie segment. And she was like, oh my God, I was telling PMS Cop. And I was like, it's so funny. It's so fucking like sexist and stupid. PMS Cop, it's her time of the month. But it's not, I can't find it anywhere. I went back the next week, and there's it's not there. I was going to try to watch it, but I was like, it's just not there. I can't find it. And she's like, well, it's not our time of the month. And then I laughed. I go, that's pretty funny. And then I go, well, how funny would that be? Like, think of the marketing for such a B movie, but if it's a big movie, it'd make more sense. Imagine if PMS Cop was only there for a week every month. You know what I mean? Like literally the 1 week Menses is when the movie is available to watch. And then you get 3 weeks where PMS Cop is not there. Well, she's not, it's not her time of the month. I laughed so hard at that as a prospect. That it would be hilarious marketing if just all of a sudden in 3 weeks, PMS Cop is back on Amazon Prime. I am still going to try to find it because I don't think I can find it anywhere. I might even, it's so bad. The trailer for it. I think I said this to you guys when I started the shittiest movie is I really can't watch the trailers. Sometimes the write-up is funny and the picture is funny. And then you watch the trailer and it shows you like, you're like, oh, it just looks really shitty. I really want to just start it and kind of get into it. I don't want to see all the dumb shit that happens in the trailer because it just makes you go, oh, they got a really good graphic person to make that poster, but nothing beyond that. Nothing beyond that. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. But PMS Cop, can't find it now because it's not our time of the month. Oh, Jesus. So what else we got? The shittiest movie. One of the ones that I talked about before in that initial list, right? We had Bubba, the redneck werewolf. I watched it, reviewed it. We had PMS Cop and Killer Sofa. That was the original 4. One of the other ones was Night of the Living Deb, as in Deborah or Debbie or whatever. Night of the Living Deb, which someone I was talking to said it should have been called Dawn of the Deb because most of it happens during the day. And I'm like, Dawn of the Deb is a better title than Night of the Living Deb because there's not a whole lot of night scenes in it. But it's not as low budget as I thought. It looks stupid. The trailer looks really hacky and dumb. Some of the zombie shit in it is really low budget, like really low budget. But it actually had some really decent acting in it, like really decent acting. The person who plays Deb did an amazing job. And then searching her on IMDb, she's actually been in some high budget shit. The only actor that I recognized was, what's his face? I don't even know the actor's name. He played the brother in Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart. He played the little brother, and I've seen him in some other shit too. I think he was in that that Star Wars movie Fanboys or whatever. But this kid was he was in it. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy's been in some big budget shit when he was younger. So like, you don't just do big budget movies and then fall to nothing. So I'm like, this thing had a bigger budget than I thought, but just not for the special effects department. But the woman who played Deb was really funny. She plays like a very needy, like goofy, quirky. I know a lot of comedians, female comedians that do jokes about like what quirky means. It just means that you're crazy. Like some I think, I'm trying to give credit where it's due, but I can't remember who the comic was. So I do apologize. She had this joke that was like, when somebody says, oh, you're quirky. Oh, I think it's Wendy Reed. Wendy Reed is the comedian with this joke. When someone says, oh my God, you're quirky, it just means, oh, you're weirder than I am. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, this is definitely a quirky woman. It's a fun little watch. Really not a whole ton to write home about. It ends kind of just like, with even a little bit of a joke, but worth a watch. Night of the Living Deb, the shittiest movie, not the shittiest movie. In fact, I watched Bubba the Redneck Werewolf as the shittiest movie, and it was kind of charming. I enjoyed it. I watched, what was it? There was another one that I watched that wasn't part of the shittiest movies that I recommended. Someone's like, well, don't tell me, I'll watch it. And I was like, yeah, maybe it was Bubba, but Night of the Living Deb, also not too disappointing. I believe that one is on Tubi at the moment, or Amazon Prime. But yeah, also like kind of charming. So, the Microwave Massacre one was garbage. That one was on point. Guys, I want your suggestions. Please send me some absolutely horrific movies to try to review, and I will consume precious currency of time in my life to watching, the odd one here and there. But yeah, I would love that. So remember, contact at onemanpodcast.com, guys. If you want to send me a top 5 list or a top 5 recommendation, if you want to submit a shittiest movie, or anything you want, you guys know the email address, contact at onemanpodcast.com. You send it, I read it. That's the deal. Coming up this week, I'm going to be going to a cottage on Monday and Tuesday with friend and co-host of the One Man Podcast, Red, and her husband, John, her son. We were going to be hanging out there. They rented this nice little cottage, and we're going to go hang. We're going to get away from the city the COVID zombies and just enjoy ourselves. And of course, the rest of the week I'm going to be doing that skip promo, just working, filling in the time. So I got an email from Mark, which I will read after I do the top 5, and I'll have to remember to do that. So as I highlight these things on my list and cross them off, I'll leave that one blank so that I can go back to it momentarily. But I will I will tell you guys this top 5 this week. This week's top 5 is top 5 pizza toppings. So there isn't a whole hell of a lot to say about that. It's not like I can go off for 10 minutes on every single topping, but I will say that my rule when making this list was top 5 pizza toppings. The only ones that don't count are cheese and sauce. That's it. Those, as far as I'm concerned, without those 2 ingredients, are not pizza. So, you know what I mean? Like to say a cheese pizza, you're basically just saying more kinds of cheese pizza, right? 3 cheese pizza or whatever it is. So, you know, you might go, well, cheese is a topping. Okay. Otherwise, you have a piece of bread with sauce on it. You know what I mean? That's focaccia. Right, isn't it? Or sauce focaccia. Anyways, so I had to consider, and like I said, if you put a sauce on your pizza, that's a topping. If you sprinkle Parmesan on it, right, that's a topping. Like you don't get to just put a bunch of flavors and things on it and go, yeah, but since it's not a crumbly, thick topping. No. You top it with it. It's going on there. I've had a lot of toppings that as of late, I put on pizza, but I just think that I got to go more all time for myself and, or just solidly going forward. So, number 5, pretty easy one, bacon. I like bacon. Bacon's nice and salty. I mean, you can't even talk shit about bacon. You put bacon on any pizza and it's definitely going to make it better. There's all sorts of different places that'll have like crumble bacon where it's almost like this bald ham. And you're like, no, I've never bought bacon that looked like this. Tastes like bacon, but why is it bald like this? You know, the mysteries of life. How do they get the caramel in the caramel bar? But bacon on a pizza, you're not doing anything wrong there. You know what I mean? That is what it is. I don't think it requires a lot of explanation in truth. Number 4, this is something that I did recently. I've been picking up these like frozen pizzas just because they were like on the cheap, right? Like I went somewhere and they were like, you know, $2.99 or $3.99 each. And they were like, not half bad. If you're looking for a quick meal, throw it in the oven. These were decent frozen pizzas. I will not just eat any frozen pizza, but this particular brand has like a nice light crust. And I'm like, you know what? It's actually more crunchy and crispy than some heavy, thick crust charred. But I had a thing of goat cheese that I bought for doing up some steaks on the barbecue a while back. And I ended up using one. It was like Costco, right? So you get 2 tubes of goat cheese for like less than the price of one if you bought it elsewhere. So I had this tube of goat cheese. It was still sealed. It was still fine. The expiry date was good. And I was like, but what am I going to put goat cheese on? So when I was throwing these frozen pizzas in, I found myself just, you know, slicing off a piece and it's just crumbling it up. Just little specks of, specks. I don't know, little like smaller than a pea-sized pieces of goat cheese kind of all over this pizza. Whatever pizza it was, whether it was just cheese, pepperoni, fucking meat lovers, Hawaiian, whatever it is, just this creamy, salty goat cheese, right? I actually wrote down goat cheese / feta, although I haven't used feta in a very long time. I'm just an alternative to some goat cheese. Feta. The idea is it's a saltier cheese. When you put it on a pizza and you melt it, it's a nice, as you take a bite that has a little piece of that on it, you get a nice little sort of creamy, salty hit, which does a lot for flavor. And I actually feel like going forward, like the next time I see, those goat cheeses on sale, I'm going to grab them and just be like, that's the kind of thing that I can add to something hot that'll just give it, you put it on ahead of time. All right. I will say this, it makes a difference, adding shit before or afterwards. Like sometimes pizza will come out of the oven, people put shit on top of it afterwards, but when you bake it, when you put it on and then you cook it, it'll actually make a difference. Right. So with the goat cheese or the feta cheese, I would say it is incredibly important that you put it on before it goes into the oven, not afterwards. Whether you're making fresh pizza or frozen or whatever, melt that on there and you get nice little hits of salt, nice little pockets. And that is definitely something that I will continue to do going forward because it was absolutely delicious. And again, it works on any pizza. So goat cheese or feta and coming in at number 4. Number 3. Uno, dos, tres. Un, deux, trois en français. Barbecue sauce drizzle. That is now my fucking jam. And again, it goes on before it gets cooked because I like it to sort of, dry out and sort of almost caramelize a little bit where it just gets a little thicker and it's not like sliding all over it wet. It's just kind of dried to the top, cooked to the top. I've used several different barbecue sauces now. Now I don't use like your basic bullseye barbecue, although it might be fine. I've got like thicker, darker, sweeter sauces. Like I'm currently using a Jack Daniel's sauce. And I will go as far to do a little side plug here is I went to Costco's business center not long ago and I bought these plastic squeeze bottles. So like condiment bottles. And I think I got like 6 of them for like $5. And I was like, amazing. So I filled them up in my fridge because like, you know, when you're going to use mustard or mayo or anything like that, like mayo, if you're just going to a giant jar with a knife, it's not as easy to just apply that shit to whatever. So I now have 5 bottles in my fridge. I have mustard, ketchup, mayonnaise, right? The classic hot dog style one. So even if I do breakfast sandwiches, it's way more easier to control the ketchup, pick it up, give it a shake, open it up, and then do the squeeze bottle on top. I have way more control of the ketchup. You don't get that like, if you shake it first and then blast through the little hole, you're not getting that giant, sometimes like, you don't get the spray shit from that little anus fucking slit that they put on those ketchup bottles. You know what I mean? If it's a glass bottle, you're not getting just blobs of it coming out. So it gives you way more control over, you know, distribution of ketchup or mayo. My breakfast sandwiches, a little ketchup and mayo on those makes me very, very happy. Little, what are we doing here? Are we talking about my favorite breakfasts? Maybe it's a top 5 for the future. But, little mayo, little ketchup, nice control over it. Phenomenal. I also have a bottle of Frank's Red Hot sauce, like a squeeze bottle of that. And I have a, barbecue sauce. The barbecue sauce, I just use it until it's done and then I'll replace it. So I had Rufus Teague blend. I had like an applewood bacon barbecue sauce in there mixed with like a smoky, I think it was like smoky maple or whatever. And the two of them together, the apple, the maple, and then 2 heats. It was just like mixed together in that bottle. I would just, you know, nice little line on top of the pizza. And you get this like sweet tang from the barbecue sauce. So it's like sweet, it's tangy, a little bit of like, you know, hickory smoke kind of thing, which is a great contrast to the saltiness of the cheese, right? The acidity, slight acidity, of course, of the tomato sauce. So it's like you get tangy, sweet barbecue sauce, cheese, salt, little hit from that, acid from the thing, you know, it's good. It's basically just flavor combinations that aren't expensive. So, you know, having your own shit that you can throw on your pizza when it comes out of the oven or before it goes in the oven is great. And you're adding so much to the pizza that, you know, without it costing a shitload. Oh, we got to go, you know, bacon. Let's put this, let's put that, let's chop up. No, a little fucking bottle with some barbecue sauce in it, brrr, drizzle on top, bang. You've just added another element, another dimension to your za. So yeah, barbecue sauce drizzle coming in at number 3. I don't have a particular barbecue sauce because I've been fucking around with different ones and I've been happy with all of them. I've not hit one yet where I'm like, oh, maybe next time don't use this. I haven't messed with like a bullseye barbecue, but those ones tend to be on the lighter side. And I would imagine not as sweet as some of the other ones, but you know, fuck around with it. See what you think, but I can't recommend it more. Number 2, controversial. I do not give a flying fuck. That's right. I'm coming in that aggressive because I feel this strongly about this topping. Phenomenal topping. Those who know. Those who don't, ignorant. You bunch of ignorant ass motherfuckers. Pineapple. Number 2, silver medal, Nancy Kerrigan of pizza toppings. Pineapple. Why, Josh? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, we have ourselves a lot of fat in the cheese, which is something I missed before, right? There's not a lot of fat in a goat cheese or a feta. But there's fat in mozzarella, or at least more of it. There's grease and oils and things like that. So you got your fat, you got your acid, a little bit of acid in the tomato sauce, not a ton, but you got your fat, you got your fucking salt from the cheese. Again, not so much in mozzarella, but the pineapple, what's pineapple coming out with? It's coming out with citric acid. All right. And it's coming in with sweet. So you got your cheese, your grease, your whatever, and then you got your salt, your sweet and acidic. And that's why I say, if you throw a little bit of that goat cheese or feta on there to get that salt, that sweet and salty combinations, a little bit of tang from the barbecue sauce, I'm telling you, you are hitting your fucking flavor color wheel elements and you are adding some amazing shit to it. Pineapple is the only thing that is bringing that sweet to whatever combination of salt. Do you want to put bacon on a pizza and get some salt on there? Little bit of goat cheese, hit some salt, the fat, and then I've already said this, fuck. I don't know why it's so hard for some people. They would rather throw fungus. I'll put mushrooms and salad on my pizza. That makes sense. Right? To them, that makes sense. But when you go, oh, how about a flavor combination? No one's like, oh my God, tangerines have no business being in a salad. There's all sorts of people putting apples in salad, putting fucking tangerines in salad, putting all sorts of stuff. Why? Because sweet contrast. If you're just going to put that in salad and then nuts and bacon, you're creating those same contrasts. Nobody's fucking protesting that. But these animals, these culinary ignorant ass motherfuckers saying pineapple has no place on pizza. No. I've said this before and I will say it again. Pineapple most certainly has a place. In fact, it has the only sweet place. Well, caramelized onions. All right, a little sweet, but they're not fine. You get that citric sweet from pineapple going toe to toe with fucking bacon. Bacon's coming in heavy on salt. You know, you put feta or cheese on there. It's coming in heavy in salt, you know. And you think, oh, your mushrooms are going to stand up to that? No, it's just sponge. What was that spongy thing I was chewing in between bouts of barbecue sauce and fucking cheese? Who cares? Apparently, the fungus people care. They're big lobbyists. You know, I don't mean to be taking on big fungus here, but I'm sorry. Your fucking mushrooms on pizza have no place. All right? I don't know where that started. Somebody had a kid in the backyard. Look, I made a garden. And he's just picking mushrooms. Put it on the pizza. We got to make them happy. Just eat around them. Oh, I guess, you know, they don't taste that bad. We didn't die or whatever. Fungus on pizza. But pineapple. Morons. Absolute morons. Pineapple has got the fucking gloves up, you know, and you get, boom, one hit from the bacon. Bang. Another hit from the fucking pineapple. You know what I mean? It's not hiding. Pulling a fucking mozzarella blanket over its head, trying to hide under the cheese, like, oh, I hope you don't notice me. Thank you for paying the extra $2 for me to be on here. No, pineapple. All right. I'm building a fucking MVP team. This is Pro Bowl pizza. Bacon, you're up. Goat cheese, hit it. Barbecue sauce. Let's do this. Pineapple, you ice that fucking arm. All right. Because you are the only one representing the sweet on this pizza. Nice. All right. Fucking pineapple has no place on pizza. I will fight you. All right. Anyways, we've got one more, guys. First place is almost like but I mean, it is what it is, guys. It's pepperoni. All right. Pepperoni is the number one pizza topping on my list. Why? Because it's fucking classic. It's also showing up with some of the salt and everything like that, like bacon. All right. Pepperoni is a lesser extent bacon. It's got some saltiness, a little bit of fat in it when you cook it, right? So you're getting fat, you're getting salt. It's doing its job. You got to think when you put something on pizza, what is it bringing to the show? I like putting spinach and shit on my pizza too. I'll put spinach on, you know, and ham and fucking steak and chicken. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can put on. But I'm talking like, you know, if I'm going to make a za and I got 5 toppings, everything I've listed here will go together. Bacon and pepperoni, porky pig, pepperoni will bring the salt, will bring the fat. All right. It's checking off 2 of the boxes. I will say pepperoni also goes on the list as number 1 because it is the only pizza that's named after it. You know what I mean? Like it's the only pizza that exists out there that is literally named after the one topping that goes on it. As much as I advocate pineapple, you don't go, hey, I'll take a pineapple pizza. No, you'll take a Hawaiian. You know, or you'll do something else and you'll add Hawaiian to it. When you want mushrooms, green peppers, and pepperoni, hey, I'll take combination, right? I'll have meat lovers, right? And then it's up to whatever meat they're going to put on there. Combo, vegetarian, Greek, all the international, barbecue chicken, like nothing gets it, you know, but when you get, I'll take a pepperoni pizza. That's the kind of pizza. The one topping right in the name, pepperoni stands alone. It is the Michael Jordan of pizza toppings. All right. And if you're like, but I'm a vegetarian, I don't like pepperoni. Fine. You also don't like the game. What are you coming into fucking pizzas at?
Can I just have a piece of bread with some, like, if we could just do some like cashew cheese on it, like cashew cheese. And then let's do like a low acidic, you know, kind of, like margarita, just a little bit of tomato sauce on it and just gluten-free crusts, please. If we could just, no, I love pizza too, as long as it's not pizza. What? That's what I'm saying. Pepperoni, you're in pepperoni. As soon as you go pizza, you're in pepperoni's house. All right. It's very likely to be on more than 50% of the pizza combinations that are out there. It stands alone and does not disappoint. Right? When's the last time you had a pepperoni pizza? You're like, bah, sure, it'd be nice to have it. Those people are like, but can we just put something green on it? Get the fuck out of my house. How about that? If you want green, you can go outside and grab a handful of grass off my lawn and throw it on your slice once it's on your plate. All right?
If you wanted salad, why did we order a pizza? They have salads at the pizza house. I asked you what you wanted. You said you were good with anything. I ordered anything. Guess what? I ordered the MVP. That's what I did. And you are now upset with it. Anyways, guys, pepperoni. I'm trying to give more talk time to pepperoni, but you get it. It's the Michael Jordan of pizza. The Michael Jordan of toppings. That's all you need. And you're like, okay, great. If I got the number one draft pick of pizza toppings, you're not that asshole who's sitting over on the side being like,
I got water chestnuts or
whatever it is. What do they put up? Artichokes. That's what I was water chestnuts, whatever. No, it's like, I got artichokes. I was in the fourth round. My pick was artichokes for toppings, right? You know, I like spinach on my pizza, but spinach is not getting drafted first overall. It's not. You know what I mean? And that first round, if you know anything, you're going meat, right? Like if even the most veganist of vegans would have to know that if you go first pick, right? If toppings are players in that first round, if you're like, I want anyone to like my pizza, you know what I mean? You don't be like, oh, did anyone pick black olives first? No one did? Oh, okay. No, they went bacon, pepperoni, bacon, ham, sausage. All the meats came off the row first round. And then the second one, you might get your tomatoes, green peppers, pineapples, mushrooms. Fuck it. I might even draft pineapple first and be like, I'm sure there'll be some meat left. I'll pick that up because I'll throw it with pineapple and it'll do its job. You know what I mean? Pineapple is there, man. I think they're like, they're almost like a Kanye West, but not so much. Kanye's got too much market share. I was going to say like Randy Moss, but I'm dating myself a little bit where it's like, you know, a lot of people don't like it, but you know, it's a fucking strong player. You know what I mean? The, Ty Domi, that's like a very Canadian reference, and it's also hockey, so a lot of Americans won't get it. But who's a player that nobody fucking likes? Kobe Bryant for a while. You know, a lot of people didn't like him. It's the Nickelback of pizza toppings. Everyone acts like they hate them, but there's a lot of fucking people who like it. You know? I'm just saying, pineapple is a powerhouse. And I think that the fucking pizza hipsters want to hate on pineapple. It has no place. You have no place in this discussion if you're going to say something that stupid. How about that? That's my new response. That pineapple has no place in pizza. You have no place in this discussion. That's right. Make a fat man angry about pizza. All right, guys, that's my top 5. Mark has an email, though. Mark has sent in his list. Oh, we've crossed the hour-long mark. Who knew I could talk for 20 minutes about pizza toppings? Mark Forrester, my buddy Mark, has said, good afternoon, Mr. Williams. Long-time listener, first-time contributor. That's not true, Mark. You've emailed before. You made me watch that horrible fucking microwave movie. I'd like to weigh in on last week's request for top 5 pizza toppings. I'm sure that my opinions on pizza toppings will cause much controversy, but I feel that it is discussion long overdue. Good. While I'm sure many people will spout off the obvious toppings like green pepper, mushrooms, pepperoni, and of course bacon, that sacred cow of any good Christian, I would like to put forth the following top 5 pizza toppings. In particular order, number 5, chicken. A chicken pizza with barbecue sauce of any kind, including barbecue, is not a topping. Nope, that's not true, Mark. I have established that if you are adding flavors, that is the whole point of a topping. It is not texture only. So I'm going to say that it's a foul. You got to do chicken. If you got to do chicken or just barbecue as one of these, you'll have to come back and say which one you want. I'm going to go with chicken. Now, I will say if you pre-barbecue, if you take the chicken in advance and cover it in barbecue sauce and cook it and grill it and then chop it up and it's got some of that sauce lingering, I'll allow that. But you don't get to drop chicken on and then drizzle barbecue sauce all over the pizza. That is now a barbecue chicken pizza. That is 2 toppings listed. Foul. Flag on the play. Any kind, including barbecue, is not a topping. That is not true. Is a great way to spend a lazy summer afternoon with friends. I've shared many a chicken pizza with friends, forming fond memories. Number 4, pineapple. Ding, ding, ding. Absolutely correct. While adding pineapple to pizza has been controversial since its creation, I wouldn't be a proud Canadian if I didn't add this to the list. Plus, it tastes delicious. It is amazing for all the reasons I listed before. And then you say numbers 3, 2, and 1 I'll put together as if they all have the same reasoning. Tomatoes, green olives, and lastly, artichokes. Oh, you artichoke bastard. These 3 toppings on a pizza make for a light meal and makes me feel good about myself. I'd like to put forth, okay, so I don't like tomatoes at all. And I'm not a big fan of green olives. However, at least Mark, what he's doing here at the tomatoes is he's going acidity. He's going green olives for salt. Holy fuck, salt content. And lastly, artichokes. Don't really know what artichokes are, but maybe that's just, community service or something. These 3 toppings on a pizza make for a light meal makes me feel good about myself. Absolutely. I'd like to put forth a top 5 suggestion of my own. My son Thomas and I had a discussion on the top 5 animal tales we would prefer and wanted to get your take. So Mark has given me a list of 5 animal tales. Now I'm going to read you to them because that's the deal. I don't save the emails or segment them. So I'm going to read the email that he sent. But I guess I'm going to try to have it I have not read this yet. I read his pizza toppings earlier. But I've not read the animal tales because I'm worried about them influencing me, but I will still add the top 5 animal tales to my list, and I will read yours now. So in number 5, Mark says kangaroo tail. We feel that a kangaroo tail would help with balance with things like reenacting scenes from the Matrix movie. That's funny. Like you can lean back on it like it's almost your own recliner. You just lean back, let the tail hold you up. Number 4, peacock tail. Although a peacock tail wouldn't have much particular use, it would draw attention and looking awesome. So it's basically the same reason that a peacock would have it, right? It's for bling, flair. Number 3, dog tail. A great way to have nonverbal communication. Yeah, I that one was even when you suggested, because Mark did call me and said I had an idea for the animal tales one. I was like, yeah, I didn't have the list yet, but I was like, dog tail's great because it's like a lie detector for when you're in a good mood or sad or scared, right? Tuck the tail underneath. People know you're afraid or you're sad. When it's wagging, they know you're happy. It is definitely a non-communication non-verbal communication. Telltale, huh? Monkey tail. This would have the most practical applications like swinging from objects or used as an additional appendage. I definitely would fuck with monkey tail. Like I might have to steal some of them, not because I couldn't think of them, but they would be those 2 right there would definitely be the 2 that I thought of. And firstly, number 1, fish tail, because we both like. That's right. Yes, that's true. You guys are big scuba divers. Fishtail, because we both like to scuba dive. A fishtail would help us explore underwater easier and with less effort. Keep up the great work and fighting the good fight. Your faithful listener, Mark. Mark, thank you for the email. I appreciate it, buddy. Always a pleasure getting those. I've already established next week's top 5, so I will add yours to my list, and we will get back to the tail ones, and maybe it'll give me a chance to replace dog and monkey tail, even though I like those a lot. I'll also have to spend some time doing some just animal tail research to see what I might want. Next week's top 5, so anyone who wants to contribute, contact at onemanpodcast.com. Next week's top 5 was submitted by Izzy a while back, which is top 5 small things that bring me joy. I've already got some things in mind, almost to the point where I'm going to worry that I'm going to miss so many things. But what I like to do over the course of the week is I'll just have a list where I just keep writing every idea I have for it down. And then before I record the podcast, I distill it down to the 5 that end up making the cut. So there was pizza toppings that I really liked that didn't make the cut. I felt kind of hacky and lame putting things like bacon and pepperoni on the list. But realistically, I'm like, you know what though? Like the top 5 things that I would want on a pizza are on this list. So whether I do them every single time or whatever, I would put these 5 on every single pizza that I eat, not even a moment's hesitation. So next week's top 5 small things that bring me joy. I'm going to burn. Ooh, do I want to burn one? I don't want to burn one. I'm just trying to give you guys an examples if you decide to come in. Yeah, I've only got 2 in mind right now, and I don't want to burn one of them because who knows? Maybe I won't be able to think. Maybe I'm a miserable fuck and I can't even come up with 5 little things that bring me joy. Well, this is one that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Morning pee, just like like that relief feeling of just having your morning pee. Like as much as it's, it doesn't bring me joy where I fucking jump out of the bathroom and click my heels together, but I definitely enjoy the morning. I feel good after a morning pee, but then there's other things too, right? So little treats, little pick-me-ups if you're out and about and you grab some. Yeah, I want that. All sorts of little joyous things. But I will have that for you guys next week. Top 5 things, top 5 small things that bring me joy. Hope you guys had a great week. Hope you have a great week. I look forward to, sharing some more information with you guys. I really hope to let you know that good news has come through and everything is great. We're right as rain and keep you updated as to the steps I'm taking towards bringing this podcast to video format as well. It really is going to be a thing about figuring out what is the fastest way to do it, because if it takes me 4 hours every week to edit a video podcast, most of my listens, if not the vast majority of my listens, are still audio only format. Podbean, Apple Podcasts, they will all continue to be audio only. So, we'll bring it video, and maybe you guys will watch that on YouTube. We'll hopefully see the YouTube numbers go up. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm looking forward to telling you guys about that. And of course, talking to you again soon.